Yeah, last session we talked about some automation tools. We started with automation tools, and we talked about what are the validation rules, how to configure the validation rule, and what is the workflow rule, how to configure a workflow rule. We just discussed. We have seen up to creation of a workflow rule, and action is pending from the workflow rule configuration, right? So let's today we are going to see about a couple more automation tools, like as we discussed yesterday, process builder and lightning flows. What's been there, we will be like seeing most of these process builder and lightning flows in today's session, and we'll be having a few more pending. Approval process. There is also another thing. We'll be discussing that in the next session. So that's the overview for today's session. So we're going to talk about workflow rules, what action we're going to talk about in the workflow rules, and what are the different type of actions we have in the process builder. We'll more focus on lightning flows, and the workflow process builder will see what we have, and we'll move on because workflow rules and process builders are likely recommend to use because as long as Salesforce is adopting completely to flows, so we'll do more hands-on on the lightning flows. Okay, so let me place this somewhere. So workflow rules. Okay, continue. You can also ignore that page by clicking do not show again. So this is the one which I created yesterday, right? So click on that. This doesn't have any action. So I specified workflow rule criteria as if student status equals attended demo, then create a task to the particular user. That's what I about to do. Okay, so workflow rule. Just remember, whatever we are trying to do an action can be a different object, but whatever we are on which object the action should fire, that has to be selected in the workflow rule object. So make sure on that, guys, or else this workflow rule will not trigger that. Okay, so let's add actions. So as we discussed last session, we have four different type of actions: creation of a task, sending an email alert, and a field update. So these three are the first basic actions that Salesforce introduced with automation tool, which is the workflow rule. Then going forward, it's been increased a little bit. And outbound message, we don't have this outbound message in anywhere in the flow or process builder. We have only in this, so we'll see that too. So first we'll talk about the new task. So I want to create a task and assign to a particular user. Okay, so I would like to assign this to who else we have. Okay, that is one, my team. Subject, student attended demo, follow up required. Okay, I just added some subject there. Unique name will be automatically populated. Due date. So this is a general task, right? Like if you're doing some action, that has to be some due date at this before on or before this date. You have to finish it off. Okay. So for due date, we have a several criteria. Either you can select a date based on the respective fields, date fields. So I'm select rule trigger date is whenever this rule triggered current date time. This whenever student record created date or institute created date, institute is the parent, master detail of student, right? That created date, or current user created date, current user last login, or current user change password. Sorry, current user last password change, or is it? So this one is something like mostly will use some kind of a standard date fields if student object has any date, or will use rule trigger date. Okay, rule trigger date is the date whenever this rule fire. Okay, so I'm selecting rule trigger date plus, let's say I'm adding 5 days. Okay, so status, I would like to set this status as not started and priority high priority. Comments, please do follow up with student who attended a demo. Okay, click on save. So this is done. If you want to add another action, you can also add multiple actions here. So I just click on done. So I'll activate this. Whenever we activate this, then only this workflow rule will fire and will do the respective action. Let me test this record. So I want to create a student record. So I have selected only this rule has to fire when a record is created only, right? So let me create a new record, and we did not add any record type condition there, right? We added only status equals attended demo. I can select any record type here. Okay, so David some Matthew, status should be attended demo. Okay, click on save. If you see here, this is the record student David Matthew, which is created under this activity tab. There is something, it is automatic standard added. Okay, this is something called this task is created. So if you see, this is the subject I have added there, this is the comments I have added, status priority high, and I said due date as +3 or +4, I'm not sure, I guess +3, +3 or +4, I'm not sure, but due date is also will be calculated accordingly. Okay, so this is how. So it, whenever a task, whenever a student record is created, it automatically creates some task and do some actions. So that's what this automation tool does. So let me edit this. Let's see with the second option, create, and every time it's edited. Okay, so let me save this up. Still it's inactive. What I'll do is now it will fire for updation as well. Okay, one second. Yeah, this will fire for updation as well. So I just changed the criteria to created and every time it's edited. So here I'm just changing the institute name here. Okay, let me, yeah, let me change the institute name from IIT Delhi to, I'm selecting as JNUK. Okay, I'm click on save. See, observe now, this will create another task. Okay, if you observe here, there is a flaw here. The flaw is I did not change the status anything now. the status, whenever I create a record with the status attend a demo, the follow-up task is already created. I just changed the institute name, then also it is creating a task, because we did not check the condition to only create this task whenever status change to attend demo. So that's the reason this checkbox will do is, what will happen is, every time it's edited, despite of status is changed or not, because I already created a task record for this attendant demo, I'm just making some action, some change in this record, not the status is still the same. Then without making any change on the status field, if I just make any changes on other fields, also create a task. So that's why we mostly should not use this option every time it's edited. Instead we'll use this option, created, and any time set to subsequently meet criteria, which is student status has to be changed here. So that's the reason we'll use this. The rule is available when a record is created and when a record that doesn't meet the criteria is edited to meet criteria. So this checkbox will only makes only create a task whenever this criteria has to be met when even though we are editing the record. Okay, I'm saving it. So I'm changing the reference here. See, now I just changed the reference. The task is not created because status is not changed. Whenever let me create a new record, let's say some John Smith, change UK, reference Andy Young, inquiry. I'm creating a new record with inquiry. Okay, so it will not create a task because our criteria will not met. So now I'm changing this status to attended demo. Click on save. Now this will create a task because with the second condition it met the criteria of status is attended demo or not. Okay, now I change this institute name. Okay, I think then this will fire. 1 second, I'll just confirm it. Mm, 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 mm. Yeah, so in simple short, the two differences is, it doesn't check about actually the conditions whether it's changed or not. If you're choosing the every time it's edited, this will is whenever they're changing, whenever they're editing the record, and by somehow the action it's again changing the record. So that time this will check the criteria whether it's meeting the criteria or not. So that's the difference between these two. Every time it's edited to subsequently meet criteria. Okay, so let's say, yeah, on top of this, I'll show you another thing. uh, so let me edit this and changing this to created. Yeah, okay. So this is the workflow actions that we discuss: task, email alert, field update, outbound message. On top of this, we can also add time based action, which is, hey, after certain time, I want to send an email, or I want to create a task after 1 hour or after 10 minutes, something like that. So let's say if I click on time trigger, after this trigger fires, after respect to time, I can also make some different action. Let's say I would say, uh, there is no minutes here, so only 1 hour. So after 1 hour of the rule trigger, I want to make some action. So if I click on save, so this will fire after 1 hour of the rule trigger date. Okay, so you can also add different actions like task, email alert, field update, outbound message. So this time dependent action, this will help us whenever we are dealing with some integrations, whenever we are communicating from Salesforce to third parties and third party to Salesforce. If you want to make some different actions after the certain time, we can use this time dependent action. That's about this time dependent action. And email alert. So email alert is whenever I want to create a task, right? After that, I want to send an email to the respective user. Or the same like task creation, we can also send the email to the user based on the actions. So send email to student user. So these are the email templates that we will be calling it, we will be calling it in the Salesforce. So these email templates you can also create from our end, or we can use the existing one. So to create from our end, we'll be going from here, email templates. So it has to be the classic email templates. So you can create your own email template here, or we can also choose the existing email template. If I create a new template, so email templates has, you can create only a text, you can create HTML template if you have a letterheads, like top and bottom will have some kind of letterheads, right? You can also create your own custom email template without any header, which is HTML and without any header letterhead. We can also create Visual Force email template, which is Visual Force is something which comes under the developer part. So but just to know, VF Visual Force is the one where Salesforce used to render the pages in the earlier days. Still Visual Force page is available, but it's an outdated version now. Okay, so either we can choose if you have letterheads, you can choose HTML, or else you can choose text or custom. So I'm choosing custom now. Click on next. So this is the folder. So like unlike we have the folders in our system, we also create folders, and we can organize our email templates in the respective folder. So I'm selecting this folder, whatever the existing folder. So available for use, we have to check this checkbox, then only we could able to use this email template outside. otherwise this will not be available. So this is like on or off switch. So email template name, follow up email, subject follow up required. Okay, so these are the standard fields, only subject is the one we have to populate here. Then next, so if you want to use, hey, I want to use my which student I want to do a follow up. So you want, if you would like to mention those, you can also mention those here by using some merge fields. Let's say I'm creating some record here, right? This John Smith. I want to let my sub assignee know, should know who is the student. Okay, so I will say hi. Follow up required for student. So I have to choose the student name here. So if we see here the something called available merge fields, this section we can choose the merge fields. Merge field in the sense, so this John Smith will be not always same. So I couldn't add this John Smith here directly. Follow up required for student John Smith, something like this, right? Because this John Smith will vary for each and every record. So I want to create this John Smith dynamically in the sense, based on the student, based on the record that created, it has to be varied. So I have to choose this John Smith from the student record. So for that, we will be choosing the merge fields. So if you see something called here available merge fields, so we can choose the our object. So scroll down to the student object. Here we go, student fields. So if I select student fields, all the student respective fields will be available in here. So what is the name field of it, right? Student. Yeah, here is the student name. So I can select this student name. Okay, I'll just add this in the double quotes. That's it. Follow up required for student so and so. Uh, he attended demo at some from online something. We can also add something like that. Okay, that's it. Okay, you can add your organization name if you'd like to. So organization name, we can also select the organization name dynamically. That will be like something called organization. If you see here, so each and every company will have its own unique name, company name, that we can view from the in quick find. If you type company information, this will be by default will be created from the org creation we used to provide company name, right? At that time, this company information will also be created. So this is the my organization name. If you would like to change, you can also change this company information. So if I would like to have my email template, this company information under this here, like we used to have signatures, right? Something like that, we can select organization fields and select name field. So that's it. Next, so if you would like to have, let's say, hey, my client is not supporting HTML version, he could able to see only text versions, so you can have the same text here. So if you have a rich, some kind of a rich text contents, you can select from the previous screen. If you would like to have only plain text, you can see select here. Save it. I'm not selecting any HTML text. So if you see, this is what it is. If I do not mention anything in the rich content in the my HTML version. So that's why it is rendering in a single para. If I would like to have some kind of paragraphs break, something like that, I have to add some breaks here. So this will content, this will support rich content. If you save here, see, this has some meaningful spaces and all the stuff. If you'd like to see how it look like, we can also see from here, send, test and verify merge fields. So here you can if you'd like to select the recipient can be either user or a contact or relative record, which is our student record. So I'll be selecting student. You can select one of the student record here. So if you see here, uh, sorry for the name language, but fine. So if you see here, the student name has auto merged here. Okay, and the company name is also auto merged here. So that's the power of email template. So I can select this email template now in here while creating an email alert. So this is from workflow rule. It will be send an email to the whoever recipient we would like to. So this is my email template, follow up email. So recipient type, we have to select this recipient because who is the recipient here? Okay, so either you can select by default like from the user list, or hey, I don't want to select any of the user. Instead, I want to send to some kind of groups, or groups will be discussing in the next week. Maybe let's say some other user or some other email field. So if you have some email field in the org and student object, you can also select the email field from the particular object. If you have some email field, that will be listed here. So if you would like to select send to creator, record creator who is creating it, he will receive an email. Or if you would like to use, you can directly use the user. You can also select contact. So there is no contact reference here. I think there is a contact reference. We are choosing the reference, so that you can choose here. So now I'm choosing the user, this one, and contact as well. Okay, if you would like to have additional emails, you can also add comma subreddit email address. So this is from whose email address, whose from whose email this has to be sent. So it will not send from our Gmail or Outlook or Yahoo. This will send from only the Salesforce, but current from address will be added to that particular email thread. Okay, if I click on save, so this email alert will be sent to the particular user. So let's test this out. So change this reference to Tim David. Let me change this to Andy Young. I have 4 now. Okay, so I'm changing it to something else. Now changing back to the attended demo. I guess it's not showing here, or let me add this. Okay, so before we go that, this particular page we will be calling as lightning record page. So whatever we are viewing here, all will be can be configured as we mentioned previously. If I want to see all the list of my tasks underneath this, so this is an activity. So what's been there, if I want to view list of all activities, I can view from this related list. So we can also add this related list here, something like On click of this gear icon, there is something called edit page. If I click on that, this is something we will be calling as app builder. Okay, so you can customize your complete these tabs, and what needs to be rendered here, and what type of tabs rendered to be rendered here, and which component has to be rendered here. It's complete, this complete page can be configured. Okay, so if I would like to see here related, so I would like to see my list of tasks here. So we can drag and drop these, all the standard Salesforce standard components. So there is something called related list single. I can be drag and drop here. What is this? Files, notes and attachment, open activities. Okay, so this way we can add a related list to here. This will be rendered. I'll show you that. Then the related list has to be added to this. Before that, if you want to render this related list to this page, if I click on save, it has to be activated. The page has to be activated. Click on activate. So either if you would like to assign this page to the org default, you can also do that. Or if you'd like to have, hey, I don't want to assign this to org default, instead I want to assign this to the only sales rep, only particular app, you can assign to the particular app. Click on next. Either we need only desktop or phone, we can also select the form factor. Save. Now it is activated. So the related list to be rendered here, the related list in the sense I mean, which is in the child, the activities and everything will be called as childs of this particular record. So those will be the childs, those will be calling it as a related list. Whatever the child records under this particular record will be available in the related list. So to render this related list here, we need to add this to the page layout first. So I have to go to the edit object, page layouts we already discussed, right? So we have each and every record type, we will be having two different page layouts, that I think we already discussed that. So if you see in this page layout, we might have seen only the fields. So there is something called buttons, quick actions, related list. So select related list, so I can scroll, drag and drop the related list here. This is the related list I'm talking about. This is notes and attachments, and what we added here, open activities, right? If you would like to have activity history, you can also add that. So all the related list you can add here. Then if you would like to have that in the page, that has to be again edited back. So this is what type of record type it is, scholar student. Let me add the record type as well. So I would like to see the record type of it. Save the page layout, come back here. As I said, lightning will not reflect immediately, that is one reason. Another reason, I added only for student scholar record type, not for the non-scholar. So let me see this David Matthew. Okay, let me add for the two page layouts. So I'm adding for non-scholar as well. All right. So if you see here, this record type is non-scholar. So I can see the related list. I think we added only for the page will be the same for one. There will be only one page per object. Let me click on edit page. Page layout will vary with respect to the record type, but not the lightning pages. Lightning page will be only one page per object. So click on related. Or it not add for the non-scholar then. Related lists. Yep. Open activities. So the related list, whatever we are viewing, has to be in the page load, then only it will render, otherwise it will not. Save it. Go to the lightning record page, refresh the screen, then we'll see. So click on related tab. So I can see the related list here. Okay. Click on save. So these are the two activities under this which I created. Email will also fall under here. So did we activate our actually workflow? I guess we did not. That's why it is not created. So workflow has to be activated, otherwise it will not trigger. So this is something process automation settings we will be calling it as. So this will have, this is also only one time setup. If you would like to have uh, on which user basis this has to be run. So this is like all the time dependent actions and some behind the scene actions we have to run particular on the user context. So this is the default user context. So let's say if I do some time dependent action, and the time dependent action will trigger after 1 hour. If I configure something like after 1 hour, so on which user basis data has to be run. Okay, that has to be defined in the default workflow user. Let's say I select my user. You can ignore remaining fields. Okay, now my workflow rule is active. So I'll go to my student record and make some changes here. I'm changing this to inquired. Click on save. I'm changing this back to the attended demo. If I go to the related list, it has only one. Let me check my email. I didn't receive any email though. Okay, I did not receive any email. Let me see what's been wrong here. Workflow, we have created task and we have created email. Student equals attended demo. Oh, the rule we have only is record is created. Okay, then it will not fire. Let me create a new record. Scholar, name, um, Tim, David, Matthew. Junior. ID Delhi reference. I'm selecting Andy something. Sorry. Status has to be attended demo. Save it. Now if I see underneath this related record, there is one activity, open activity. And if I check my email, I should have received an email. See? So this is the email template which I created, and this is the email template I've selected in the email alert. So that's how we will be playing with it. So don't bother about this message. This is because of Salesforce. If you see here, the from address is mine, but it come across through this particular because it is coming from my Salesforce organization. So that's why the emails or whatever it will be like checking it's like a spam. That's it. Okay. So that's how we will be configuring the workflow rules, the task and even emails, and what else we have pending in the workflow. Outbound message. So this outbound message, I'll just show you what it's been, but we couldn't able to test this out. So outbound message is if you would like to send some custom note, send some message to the third party, external third party. Either it's a Google or anything. So if you would like to send some message to the third party, you will be defining that here. So let's say this is how we will choose the endpoint URL, and you have your own message and description here, and what needs to be sent through particular endpoint URL. It is like sending a message to the outside of the Salesforce, in short. Okay. So with this we can also do some call outs. That's what we will be calling to sending to the outside integration. So we'll be doing some call outs to the third party, and that will take care of something. So that's where we will be using this outbound message. Okay. So I don't have actually proper endpoint URL to test it. So what we'll be doing is we have to provide name, unique name, and what needs to be sent, the endpoint URL. That's it. So that will send a message, and if that particular endpoint URL has proper response to be received, then that will be received there. Okay, that's what it is, outbound message. Then something called field update. So let's say this workflow rule field update will do on two different objects. One on the same object, which is a student. If what actually when this field update will be required. So let's say whenever I'm creating a student record, I want to populate. Let's say if they did not choose, maybe I don't have. Let's talk about institute. Let me see if I have any respective field. Uh, mm, 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 mm. Maybe something called, maybe I'm not sure whether it is a relevant field or not, but let's imagine something. If the country or state is not selected, let's consider. Okay. Let's say country is not selected. I want to populate the country by default. Okay. So for that, what we'll be doing is whenever the field is not available, we have to populate the field, and we have to make some changes. So that's where we will be using the workflow field update. So workflow field update can do two type of actions. One, field update on the same object, which is a student object. Now in our case, let's consider if I consider student, I can do the workflow field update on the student object and respective field. And if student has a master detail relationship, which is institute is a master detail, right? I can also make field update on the master detail, either on the same object or on the parent object, which is a master detail. no lookup can be possible. We couldn't able to update in the lookup relationship if you have a lookup relationship either on the same object or on the master detail. That's it. So that's what this field update does. Okay, so we'll see this maybe. Okay, let me show you quickly the field update. Do we have any student fields? Rating formula, record type formula, reference, sponsor. Let's say sponsor, right? I would like to do some sponsor here. So what we'll do is whenever a student record is created, I want to populate sponsor as some default value. Some, let's consider individual. Okay, if nothing was populated, I want to populate as individual. So we'll update this, update sponsor value. So this also actually will happen only based on the if student attended demo, right? So I'll be choosing this to be institute student sponsor. So what this checkbox does is, again we are doing some update on the same student object. The workflow will only fire whenever we do some DML on the student object. So it is asking us whether should we again fire the workflow rule because you are making some change on the student object. So the first workflow will fire because of the we made change on the student. So it is like a recursive again. So first student updation workflow will fire, again I am updating the student with the sponsor, again should I allow the workflow rule fire or not. So this is some kind of, if you do this, this will end up with a recursive if you do not configure the value properly. So I'm ignoring this now. So what value I have to set? So I'll be using a blank value if I would like to have a nothing, or I will be using some formula editor. So here, so I have to choose, if I want to choose a value from dynamically I can also choose that, or else I can directly have the value. Let me see if I could able to have the value individual. I think it's text of individual. There is some functions called text. This has to be here. I have to choose this thing. Okay. Let me see if is there any. Not sure whether I could able to achieve this. No. Mm, what else we get use here? Mm, 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 mm. Okay, I'm not sure whether how could we use this directly hardcode value individual. Even if I have this, I don't think it will allow. Enclose text and pick list value API names in double quotes. Okay. So I think this is how I should do. Okay, it does. So I'm just populating sponsor as individual value here. So click on save. So whenever a student record is created with attended demo, I want to populate this sponsor as something called individual. So I have to, before that I have to update this page layout again, because sponsor is not available in the page layout. See, the sponsor is not added in the page layout. So I'll be adding here. So this is for non-scholar, and I'll add this for scholar too. For scholar it is there. Okay, I'll create for scholar now. So I'll create a new student here, creating with attended demo. Javed Junior. Okay, institute name I'm selecting as JNTU Hyderabad, and sponsor I am selecting as Andean. Okay, so this sponsor has to populate now. See, the sponsor is populated as individual, and this might have created a task and send an email. Okay, so that's the power of automation. We can define task. You can create a task from a workflow rule, email, so to send an email to the respective user and do a field update on the same object or in the parent object if the relationship is a master detail. So those are the three different actions. And another thing is outbound message. If you would like to send some integration to the third party, we can send an outbound message to the third party. Okay, so that's what about workflow rule. So before we proceed further, do we have any questions, guys, from anyone? I don't hear anything.
No, sure.
Okay, all right. So now we are going to talk about process builder, which is an upgraded version of workflow rule. So process builder can does so, as I mentioned, it's the like evaluations of the automation tools. First Salesforce introduced a workflow rule, then process builder, then lightning flows. Flows is available with the workflow rule, but it's not that much powerful. Now with the lightning, and after in earlier 2018 or 17, workflow becomes more powerful in last couple of years. So lightning flow can do anything. So that's what the current stage of the lightning flow. All right, so let's talk about process builder quickly. So process builder also will available only under the process automation settings. Okay, so this is just a welcome message. How to do the process builder and all the stuff. Click on new. So the same, like as I mentioned, right? Salesforce is currently enforcing all the customers, all the developers, all the admins to use Flow instead of a process builder. But as a developers or as an admin, we have to know what's been there in the first process as well as workflow. Then only we could able to understand Flow and why it's become more powerful. Okay, and in process builder. So the same, like everything, every process will have a two different label and API name. So that's what it is, process name. So what I'm going to do, let's say I'm doing process on student object. I would say process on student, just simply with a single word. Okay, then description. So the when the process starts, same like it is previously we've seen a record is for workflow, we've seen a record is created, a record is updated, a record is updated every time subsequently met criteria. But here, process builder, a record changes will falls under the three criteria of workflow: record created, record edited, record changed every time. Then a platform event message is, there is something concept called platform event. So that will be used whenever we are dealing mostly with the integration. So we can also invoke the process builder from platform event change. That's what this second option. And we can also call the process builder from another process builder, but workflow, it couldn't allow us. But process builder, we can also call one process builder from another process builder. Okay, so for now I'm choosing record changes. That's what we are familiar with it. Save. So if you see, this is a bit user friendly and see, having some rich some UI compared with the workflow, right? So workflow is a bit outdated UI. So that's what the evolution of the Salesforce. So this has been introduced earlier of 2014 times. So when the lightning come into the picture, so here add an object. So the same like whatever we choose in there, it is like kind of a graphical representation and like with widgets and some flow charts. So now I have to choose student object here. Okay, and again the same, when a record is created or record is created or edited. So two actions we have, and this one, this is something I told you, right? Either should we allow the workflow. Previously we've seen one checkbox whenever we are dealing with the field update. Should we have to allow the user to check again fire the same workflow because of the field update? Same way this allow this do the same. If you check this checkbox, what will happen is somehow our process is updating student record. Then in org there was so many other process and so many other triggers and everything. Somehow again student object is again doing some insert or update or delete. Again this process will fire if you check this checkbox. So recursion, that's what I mean, right? Previously, so it is kind of a recursion, recursive process. So if you are checking this checkbox, we have to make sure we validate and every criteria properly. Okay, so now here I'm checking a record is created or edited. So I choose an object and the when should the process starts, save it. Okay, so if you see, this is like a algorithm, a kind of a workflow, what do you call, flow chart, flow diagram. So here I have to choose criteria. So what I'm checking here is, if student record type is, previously we created attended demo for every record type, right? Now I want to do the action only for scholar record type. So check scholar or non-scholar. Okay, so this one, if you would like to have conditions, you can directly have a conditions are met. Or if you want to, if you don't want to have any condition, do always the job, just select no criteria. Or if you want to do, hey, I have a formula, or I want to validate the custom conditions, like I will be defining my formula here, we can also do that. So I'm choosing conditions are met here. So this is some kind of a UI where we don't want to imagine anything. So student object, I want to deal with a record type. So record type, name is the developer name. I think API name is name. Yeah, record type name is the developer name. Yeah. Choose, if record type developer name equals a value. So we have to take record type here. So I want to deal with this for scholar student. So I'll be choosing the record type developer name. Okay, so here let's say you have a two or three conditions, either you want to choose and or let's say I have another condition, status status equals demo, right? Status, choose, this is a pick list, attended demo. So if I choose this, and it has to be, record type has to be scholar student, and the status has to be attended demo. If I choose or, this will be like record type, either record type has to be scholar student or has to be attended demo. I don't want to have this and or. If I want to define the logic customly, like something like this one, and if I have more than another record, so I will be choosing like two or three. So when we'll be doing this is like, if you want to apply, record type has to be scholar student, and either status has to be attended demo, or if I want to say, hey, sponsor should be some should populate some value. Okay, then I'll be selecting the field here. Let's consider I'm choosing not the sponsor. Yeah, let's say sponsor. Sponsor equals individual. Let's consider. Okay, so either status has to be attended demo or sponsor has to be individual. So at this time I couldn't able to achieve this with one. If I check with a one, it will be and for each and every field. Record type has to be scholar student, and he status has to be attended demo, and sponsorship has to be individual. But I don't want to do with these two, and so then I can't do with or between these three, because record type must be scholar student. Then we'll be choosing the customized logic. One record type has to be one, scholar student. Either Strata has to be attended demo or sponsor has to be individual. Okay, and so that's what this one does. So click on save. All right. So these are my condition. Now, what type of actions I can perform? So again, the same this thing, like as we discussed in the flow, what object has to be triggered, and what type of action should trigger this created or edited, on what criteria. This will be common for workflow or process builder or flow. Action also be the common, but for flow, action will be process builder, some actions will be additionally added. Okay, so click on add action. Now workflow can does only four type of actions, okay, which are field update, creation of a task, and sending an email. On top of this, it can also do some other actions. Apex, so this action type Apex will do is work. Remember, all the automation tools couldn't able to handle complex logics. Complex logics in the sense, you have so many scenarios, so many conditions, where you couldn't able to achieve that with the workflow process builder or flow. For that, we have to define that logics in the all the complex logics in the Apex. So this Apex in the sense, Apex is a language where we will be developing our Salesforce native code in the Apex. So this will be like a developer part. This comes into the developer part. So however, we if you have a familiar with the Java or C++, same like however we used to code the language, same like the Apex also does the same job. Okay, so we can call the Apex from the Apex in the sense Apex classes. That's what we will be calling as. We can call the Apex class from here. Okay, that's the first. Create a record. Previously, we've seen only the record. The only record we can create from workflow is task. But here you can create any record despite of relationship. So task is the child object of student, because that's what we allowed activities. But here you can create any record despite of relationship. That's what this create record allows us. Email alert from there and here, it does the same job. We don't There's nothing changing in the email alerts. Flow is, you can call a flow from process builder. Flow will be, we'll see the flow in the next session. But remember, we can also invoke a flow from the process builder. Post to charter. What this will do is, this post to charter, unlike like social media we have, right, Facebook or Insta something. So we used to have a feeds, some like someone, you can also post something, or someone can also post on your timeline. Same like, we can also have some chatter groups here, and we can post the messages to the chatter group, so that everyone will see, like the same groups in the Facebook. Okay, chatter will also do the same. You can also post the messages into the chatter groups. Process, again, as I said, like the flows, process can also be, you can invoke another process from here. Quick actions like, we might have seen this. I think I might have already told this. So this plus, right, these global actions, new task, new event, all these kind of a global actions. Each and every object also have certain quick actions. This particular area, we will be calling it as quick actions. These can also be called from process builder. Then quip. You might have already heard about this quip. This quip is document storage, where like unlike Google Drive and everything does, right, OneDrive. Same like quip also is a document storage. You can also invoke your quip from the process builder. So we can create a document, and we can also post the, I think it needs some credentials, the quip credentials. Okay, then some send custom notification. This is like, if you observe in our UI, if you have some task, it will pop up something called here notifications. If you have a task due date of today, it will have some pop-up notifications. Same like, we can also do some kind of custom notification from this process builder. Submit for approval, we'll be talking this approval process in the next session. Then I will discuss this approval process, what it does. Update records. So you can also update either in the same student record, or the childs of the student record. So if I select the student record that you process, you can also make some changes on the student record. This is like the same field update. This one, select a record related to the student, which is, it no need to be the master detail. If you have any lookup relationship which is related object, either a master detail or a lookup, we can also make changes in the field updates. That's what this process builder does. So we'll see a couple of actions today. And this, as I said, the process builder is kind of outdated. We'll talk less on the process builder, and we'll talk more on the flows. So these are all the actions that we have in the process builder. We'll see which we did not see in the workflow. We'll see something called create a record. We'll create a different object record from the process builder. Okay, whenever a student record is created, what else we have? An object, account, contact, institute, student. Did we create a course? Okay, let me create a contact simply. Okay, create a record. Okay, I'll be creating a contact. So I'll be selecting it as contact. So this is the field mapping. So how would you like to map the fields? So I choose an object contact, and then, so this is the required field. So contact last name is the required field, right? So that will be automatically pops up here. And what else we have? We can map the different fields. So last name, I would like to map. I don't want to create hard codedly. I want to create a student record as a contact. So I'll be choosing field reference. So I'll be finding a field here from student. What else we have? A name field, student name. And what else we have in the contact? I don't think we are collecting all these fields. Uh, uh, um, mm, mm, mm. There's nothing description field as well here. It's a pick list. Title, maybe let's populate some title here. So title, I would like to populate title from sponsor. So field reference, I'll be choosing the title as sponsor here. I did not find a proper mapping here, but then that's it. Just want to create a one contact record with this. Save it. Okay, let me remove this up. Last name and title I populated. Okay, so I want to activate this. Before this, make sure whenever we are working on the automation tools, make sure there will be only one automation tool, either it's a workflow or a process builder or a flow per object, or else it what will happen is it will try to do multiple actions each and every automation tool have. So end of the day it will slow down our application, and it will uh, process like first workflow will fire or process builder will fire or flow will fire, and different updates will happen. So as Salesforce recommends, make sure you will be having one automation tool per object. So before we activate this, just deactivate the workflow that we created. It will nothing happen as long as we don't have much logics. So deactivate this workflow. Okay, it's deactivated. Okay, nothing will happen if you have a simple logics, but it has to be defined properly. So there is something called order of execution in the Salesforce. So every CRM will have that, and every CRM will have some limits. So these are the only few you can do from the respective transaction. So everything will fall under the limits and constraints. So whenever we are defining something, it has to meet in the particular. So that's why make sure have a best practice to have only one configuration, one automation tool per object. Okay, let me go back to my process builder. Let me activate this. So I activated it. It will create a contact now. So did I create this for record is created or rated? Okay, it will. So what I'll do is I'll just edit uh, the student record, or let me create another student record. It has to be scholar, right? Student name, let me say scholar student one. institute name, JNTU Hyderabad, reference, and here. Okay. So I want to populate. I will not populate status here because we added a condition. Record type has to be scholar student. Either status has to be attend demo or sponsor should be individual. So I'll populate just individual. Okay. I'll create this. So why this is been hitting is something we have a validation rule. For scholar student, status has to be populated. If you remember in the last session, we've defined a validation rule on the student object. To make a validate status has to be required. So that's where it is hitting. I'll choose something called inquiry. Okay. I'll click on save. So it will create a contact. Let me check the contact. So if you see here, there is something called, it's loading up. It's loading. Yeah. You see, this is the student record I created here. So it created a contact. Okay. So and title, we populate the sponsor as a title. So that's been populated. So that's what we can do from the process builder. And if you want to make any actions, it has to be deactivated. So then only we could able to make some actions. Active version we couldn't able to do anything, that's for sure. And then second thing is, if you want to make, let's say I want to create a content, right? I want to add an additional action here. Then for existing deactivated version we couldn't able to change anything. If I want to add additional action here, it has to be cloned. So each and every time you activate and deactivate it and you want to make additional changes, it has to be cloned. So it will maintain versions. Okay. So that it will be easy for us to track back. Okay, what is in what version I have what changes. Okay. So this is a version of current process or a new process. So if you would like to don't want to have a same this process and you want to recreate again, you can choose a new process. Or hey, I don't want to create a new process, I want to maintain the versions, just click on version of current process. So this is the current version, Salesforce version. So you can choose the, you can populate the description, click on save. So if I go back to my setup, the process builder, if I click on this, I can see the versions. So this is the first version. Okay, if I populate the description, that will be available, and this is the second version. So that's why I always should have a description. Okay, so you can click on which version you would like. If I want to see what changes I did in the first version, we can click on that and clone it again if you want. So at what time this will help is the versions. Let's say you made some actions. Let's say you have 10 versions of it. Okay, in the 11th version you introduce some new field or you introduce some different action. Okay, and in the production it is been failing for some reason. In the client's org, in the client's organization, after you deploy to production, it's been failing for some reason. What you want to do is, whenever we have this version strategy, we can simply, if you want to bypass that, our client is in already production and they're complaining they couldn't able to proceed further and all users are complaining it, so we can simply go back to the 10th version and clone it a new version. So instead of the if I want to clone the version from this version 1, again I can clone this version and it will create a new version. So whatever the changes I made in the 11th version can be backtracked and I can see whatever I have in the 11th version and I can fix that issue. So this will help us to see. So this is the third version I created from the version 1. So you can also create from any version, from any version. So that's where these versions will help us. So if I want to add some additional action here, so if I, let's say if I add a new action, what else we can add here? Post to chat or quick actions. Let's see some quick action here, right? Okay, so I want to do some quick action here. Let's see how the quick action will do. Okay, I want to choose some global actions, create a record or log a call, or what else we have? Update record, then object, student object. Mm, I think we did not define. So this list will only contain if you have defined any new custom actions. So we did not create quick action, right? So it will not be available. So let me choose global action. We have created a record and log a call. Let's consider log a call. So this will create a log a call record from here. If you see, so if I save this, so this will create a task with type log call. I think here we will see. Mhm. So calls, I think it will fall under another related list. We have to add that. But what else we can do here? Actions type. I think we don't have much quick actions here. Let's see some other actions. Let's say update records to the related record. What else we have? Uh, Contact. We have contact, right? This is the contact record. Is the reference is the contact field? Yeah, reference is the lookup contact. So we can do that in the next session too. So we'll just update one of the field from this. What else we can update? So we'll see that respective field and we'll update this. So this is the field that we could able to update that in the despite of relationship. That's what this does. In the sense, despite of master relationship. Okay, so that's what this possibility does. So we'll talk more on the flows in the next session, and we'll see a approval process in the next session, guys. That's all from my end for this session today. Do you have any questions before we close for the day?
No, Ashwin. Good.
All right. Then thank you guys, and I'll send the task for today after the call, and I'll send the recording. I'll share the recording soon. Thank you guys. Then
Thank you.
that's all from my end. Have a good day and good weekend. We'll talk to you again
Thank you.
Monday.